You know, the elders are really the repositories of memory in our community. In certain parts of Africa, and West Africa in particular, you have the concept of the griot. Griot is a keeper of memory. They are the elders of the community. They keep the history and pass down that history of the community in which they live, in which they've grown up in. They pass it down from one generation to the next. So the elders in the community are key to passing down the lessons learned, the things that they have seen and experienced, so that the younger generation can learn from their experiences and continue this evolving progress of humanity forward. My name is Masoud Olafani. I am a multidisciplinary artist. I was trained as a sculptor. I have an MFA degree from Savannah College of Art and Design. I went to undergraduate school at Morehouse. I'm also a film and television actor and a writer. Elder was a project that was initiated by the Freedom Park Conservancy as a way to memorialize the history, the really remarkable history of the David T. Howard School. And it's an historic location. That site, which has been a building that's been around since the 1940s, is now going through a process of being revitalized and redesigned for the next 100 or so years. And they wanted to use one of the old growth trees that was on site, which was an old growth elm tree, which had been there for about 150 years. And they approached me about using the tree and incorporating it into a public sculpture, a temporary work of art that will be installed across the street from the school. And so we came up with this concept of elder, which kind of ties the history of the school, on the one hand, viewing the trees as elders of the community, as the witnesses of history, but then also the people that have graduated from that school, some of them from the 1940s. People have been there in the 60s and the 70s, and this wealth of history that they carry. So I wanted to kind of combine the history of the trees that were on site and also the people that moved through that building, through that location, and also talk about the connection that they had with those trees. The fact that many of them probably spent time under those trees, having lunch under those trees, talking under those trees, climbing some of those trees. And so Elder was developed kind of in response to that idea, that conceptual framework. And I will be building a set of branches, handmade branches, that will come off of the stumps of the branches that used to exist on the tree. And at the end of those branches will be the hands of the elders that we have cast, who were alumnus of the Howard School. And then I will be rubbing powdered graphite and charcoal into the surface to give it this really deep, black, luminous quality, this really dark, rich kind of sepia black tone. And then I will blend, actually strip the bark off part of the branch, and then also again rub the powdered graphite and pigment into that surface as well. Blending into a kind of seamless design where it looks like the hand is actually growing out of the branch itself. And that will be turned, the tree will be turned, be laying on its side with the branches reaching out towards the school, back towards the school, linking it back towards the site that it was dislodged from, and pointing to that connection of history. With a little bit of a bent angle, we're going this one down here. We're going that one here. So what we'll do is today we're going to get them doweled, get them set, put the adhesive on them, and then tarp them and let that dry. And then over the next couple of days, I'll come in and I'll start installing more. We have 10 total, but I don't know if we're going to use all 10. It depends on what the piece looks like as we gradually increase the number. And then we'll do the finishing work, and then we'll actually need to color them first. Where the joint meets the tree, so that it has to be colored, so get pigment on it, and then finish it up. So that's where we are. Well, Atlanta's really an incubator of black talent, right? In a variety of different fields. Of course, you have the creative fields, which are probably the most obvious. We've had great creatives here in the various disciplines of the arts, be it actors, writers, directors, visual artists, singers, the entire spectrum of creative talent. And then, of course, you also have incredible leadership that has come out of Atlanta. So if you were African American and you lived here, you only had one of two choices. There was Booker T. Washington and there was Howard. So those were the only two schools that served the black community, which is a wonderful thing because that is a building, that core structure of that building really, housed some really brilliant people, men and women who came through that school, matriculated through those programs, and went on to do remarkable things. Of course, we know Dr. Martin Luther King, there's Maynard Jackson, there's Clyde the Glide Frazier, who delivered the only championship that the New York Knicks have ever known, and just a whole host of really remarkably talented people.
So this is my high school, David T. Howard. Being back there today was very provocative, man. Poignant memories. The best years of my life were in high school. People can't believe that this was time doing segregation, so a lot of our students lived right by the white schools, but they couldn't attend there, so they had to come all the way here. This place defined my character, my fortitude, my aptitude. This is where it all began. I didn't think I'd ever have as much fun when I left high school. I actually cried. Our coaches used to always tell us here, it's not where you come from, son, it's where you're going. We were the David T. Howard Rams. Blue and gold will save your soul. I'm so glad I'm from Howard High. I'm so glad I'm from Howard High.
The thing that I guess bonded all of us was the fact that we had the experience together, and we know what it was like. We know the ups, the downs, and that's what it had grown to become, simply because we were not permitted to attend any of the other institutions that did the same thing simply because of who we were.
The students there, we were close. The students at Howard were close. And if something happened, we were concerned, but they also supported. We supported one another in whatever we did. Because we were proud. We were so proud to attend David T. Howard High School. We were like sisters and brothers. It was like one big family.
We love Howard High School because those teachers was determined that every child was going to learn, they was going to be whatever they aspired to be. They just wanted to make sure we achieved, that we get what it is that they offered us and keep moving and keep moving and keep growing. And for that, we just love Howard. And I mean, even the alumni today, when we come together, it's like, whoa, here we are again, As a group, we just love to march in there. And on the 15th of next month, we'll all be meeting for our annual breakfast. I got the tickets with me today if you'd like to buy one.
Well, for a while, the Howard School was going to be, there was some talk about it being gutted and demolished. But some of the concerned members of the community, once they found out the history of the school, and also the alumnus, did not want to allow that to happen.
Right.
Not only the history of the school, but the history of the city. The contributions that folks like David T. Howard made years and years and years ago should not be overlooked, forgotten, neglected. And to me, it's just an honor that we can continue to carry on the principles of Mr. David Tobias Howard into the year 2020 and moving forward.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, that's good. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So the hands are important for me because so much of the identity of the person can be traced in their hands and the lines in their hands and their fingers. And of course, as the body gets older, you get more demarcation points or lines that show the history and the time that has passed as this person has been upon the earth. So, the hands are a symbol of that in a way. They're an indicator of memory, if you will, of work, of history, of time, the passage of time, and of the elder community in a way. And it's interesting because each hand is so different and so unique, right? Some are large, some are small. Some of the lines are more deeply entrenched in some hands than the other. Some are more wrinkled than others. Some are more fragile, some are more powerful, more compactly built. But they really are in a way a signature of the person that they belong to. So the hand in that way works perfectly with this idea of the tree and the branches being integrated into the branches, because the lines in the tree, the bark is a history of that tree. It's an indicator of the things that tree has seen, that it has witnessed, of the time that's passed since it's been upon the earth. The thing that I heard constantly speaking to the elders was this atmosphere of encouragement and expectation and accomplishment that the seniors would pass down to the juniors, who would pass it down to the sophomores, they would pass it on to the freshmen. And then as they get ready to leave the school, they're passing that down to the next generation. So it's a really beautiful example of kind of sustained interdependency that I think the entire community of Atlanta can learn from, and indeed the entire nation and the world can learn from. So, yeah.